political commentator Andy Williams and the broadcaster Claire Muldoon.
Good morning.
Should we go north of the border, Claire?
Why don't we?
To a certain former First Minister.
Yeah, so this has been covered a lot, quite rightly too, because of the Scottish COVID inquiry. Now, I think the sub-editors have missed a trick here in the headlines because, of course, this should be the backdrop over the past 48 hours of the old Leslie Gore score. It's my party and I'll cry if I want to.
And she
of
did
course,
cry.
we had, you know, the former First Minister crying crocodile tears. In fact, Alistair Jack said, goodness me, she could cry out of one eye if she had to. She's that duplicitous. And let's look at the facts.
That's fair, because her downfall has been... It must be pretty soul-destroying for her.
Yes, but that's what it is. She's fallen on her sword, Anne. And I think, you know, the SNP are really bad for Scotland. And I wish the Scottish people would wake up and see that. Let's look at the facts. The facts from this inquiry are quite clear. There was an email in July 2020 from John Swinney's account, who was one of the higher echelons, shall we say, of the SNP, signed off by a man called Scott, that the Spanish government would actually block the Scottish move into the EU, and they were worried about that. So for her to say that she didn't make any qualms or any qualms about the fact that the COVID thing was actually great for her, that she could actually push the narrative for independence, she said, no, that wasn't the case at all. Well, it was. We've got the proof, and it's not just that one email, because obviously they were wanting to have their own fiscal bank.
Yeah, but why does that one email about... Why does that tie into how she handled the pandemic? I don't see
Because she actually said subsequently in this inquiry that she didn't think that the push for independence was made during that time, but it was. It was always on the back burner because they were always trying to be disingenuous between Westminster, because a devolved government Westminster's got the reserved powers for immigration, OK? But when we're talking about health and social and everything else, but the devolved government has got the control for that, and in some instances tax as well, but not pensions. So there's a few differences, but everyone thought she was a paradigm of virtue during that, getting on her wee soapbox and giving out, you know, this is what we're going to do. And the minute, I'm sorry, but the minute she started to say sawing 2 inches off classroom doors, that was it for me. The woman didn't know what she was doing. Then we've got Jean Freeman, who went down to Westminster, spoke with the then Health Secretary Matt Hancock in front of Alistair Jack, the then Scottish Secretary, and not once did Jean Freeman mention the fact that they had an outbreak of COVID at the Nike conference in a hotel in Edinburgh. They keep things to themselves. They lie.
But she gave the impression very well, didn't she, throughout the whole of lockdown, that they were doing much better than we were.
But they weren't.
No, but she gave us the impression incredibly well.
How can you trust someone like that?
Well, and also she looked in control compared to Boris Johnson at the time, who was not in control.
She was always first out with a press conference, wasn't she?
She benefited from being let's be fair to her, being a very good communicator, being a very good presentational person.
I don't think you can be fair to her, Andy. She's driven Scotland into the absolute ground. Education's fallen off the cliff. Health and safety has gone by the wayside. I mean, there's now... Dundee used to be famous for jute, jam and... journalism. It's now famous for junkies, I'm afraid, because the rise in the epidemic of addiction and drugs is vehemently higher than the rest of Europe. And she always wants to be part of Europe, so maybe that's the comparison she wants.
Well, look, there are plenty of people north of the border who would disagree with you. We shall see if they still will after the general election.
Yeah. Just ask you, very briefly, what's the 2 inches off the bottom of school doors?
Yes, ventilation. So they wasted money sawing classroom doors.
I do not remember that.
Well, no, I don't remember that one.